It's Miss Altman here. This week, we will be reviewing linear inequalities. Linear inequalities are very similar to linear equations. The only difference is that a linear equation uses an equal sign. In linear inequalities, they use inequality symbols. Less than. Make sure you have paper, pencil, so you can take notes. This is something that you definitely need to write down. This symbol that I just wrote down is less than. This symbol is greater than. Greater than. I like to think about the less than. Let me make it a little bit better. This is a less than symbol. You can write less. You can see the word in the symbol. Less. So make sure you have those two written down. Less than and greater than. And the last two symbols. If I have less than, if I add this line underneath my less than symbol, that line means or equal to. So this symbol is now less than or equal to. Less than or equal to. And same thing for greater than. That symbol is just greater than. If I add this or equal to line underneath, now the symbol means greater than or equal to. Make sure you're writing this down. This is information that you're definitely going to need. Greater than or equal to. So, linear inequalities can produce true or false statements. We usually like to keep our inequalities true. So, with that being said, let's take a look at it. We want to keep an inequality true. Let's take a look at this inequality. 2 is less than 6. Well, if we look at this inequality, this is indeed a true statement. 2 is less than 6. Let's say I add 3 to both sides. Now I have 5 is less than 9. Still giving me a true statement. So if I add something to a true statement, it's going to still give me a true statement. Okay, well, let's take it back. Let's subtract 3. If I subtract 3, clearly I'm going to go back to the exact same thing we started with. 2 is less than 6. So if I add something or if I subtract something to an inequality, and if I add or subtract to something that's already true, it's going to still give me a true statement. It's going to still give me a true statement. Okay, well, let's say I divide by positive 2 on both sides. Okay, well, 2 divided by 2 gives me 1. It's less than 6 divided by 2 will give me 3. 1 is less than 3. Well, that's indeed still a true statement. It still gives me a true statement. So if I add, subtract, or even divide by a positive number in this case, it still will give me a true statement. There is only one rule to inequalities that you have to know. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the inequality symbol. If you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the inequality symbol. Pause the video and make sure you jot that note down. What I mean by that is, let's go back to our original inequality. 2 is less than 6. Let's say I divide by a negative 2. 2 divided by negative 2 will give me a negative 1. 6 divided by, this should be a negative 2, 6 divided by a negative 2 will give me a negative 3. If I keep that same symbol, do I still have a true statement? Negative 1 is less than negative 3? I don't believe so, but let's take a look at it. If I have a graph, let's draw a coordinate plane. I have my x-axis and I have my y-axis. And I have negative 1 right here. Remember, negative 1, so this is negative 1. And then I have negative 3 right there. Well, we know that if we're going to the left on the x-axis, we're going towards smaller numbers. Smaller numbers. But if we go to the right on the x-axis, we're going towards bigger number. Bigger numbers. So let's look back at our inequality right here. Negative 1 is less than a negative 3. Well, if we start at negative 1 and we're going this way, it says that we're going towards smaller numbers right here. If we go to the left if we go to the left on the x-axis, excuse me. And we know that if we go to the right, if I go 1 this way, I'm at 0. If I go another 1, I'm at 1. Go again, I'm at 2. Keep going, I'm going towards bigger numbers. So we know that this statement is false, and that's why our rule, that's why we have to have that rule, because we have to keep our inequality true. So again, if you divide by a negative number, and in this case, we divided by a negative 2, you have to flip the original inequality symbol. Our symbol was originally less than. So to keep this inequality true, we must flip this symbol to make it greater than. So now our statement negative 1 is greater than negative 3 is now a true statement.